Okay, I'm going to get started this morning by just welcoming everyone. Welcome to Wat Tung Yu. Nice to see you guys this morning. Good morning. Welcome to everyone here at the temple, and welcome to everyone who's joining us online as well. Today is the third day of a 5-day course that I teach, and I know some of you guys might be here just for the morning because we have our regular Sunday, Wednesday, and Saturday classes. So when we're teaching courses and things like this, we just let you guys come on in and enjoy. You can actually attend this course for whatever time you like. So if you're here for the morning and you enjoy what you're hearing and learning and growing and understanding, you're welcome to stick around. All of our classes, courses, and retreats are available at no cost. You're welcome to always attend either here at the temple or online. So welcome to everyone, whether you're joining for the first time or you've been joining regularly. The way that we start our class is we start with meditation. So if you guys would like to join for meditation, I'll guide you in a meditation session, and then afterwards I'll move into talking about our topics today, which are the 3 poisons or the 3 unwholesome roots or the 3 fires. This is where you're learning about what the Buddha discovered about the mind that is polluting the mind and causing the mind to experience feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. You're going to learn about what's plaguing the mind and keeping it in this unenlightened state. And then I'll be providing you some of the solutions to be able to help transform the mind and move the mind away from those pollutions into the enlightened mental state where the mind can be peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy permanently for the rest of your life. So after we talk about the 3 poisons, we're going to take a mid-morning break. Then we're going to come back and learn the 5 precepts. These are 5 impactful decisions that you could make either wisely or unwisely. And depending on how you make these decisions, you'll experience either wholesome results or unwholesome results in your life. Sometimes people think that the Buddha taught no killing, no stealing, no sexual misconduct, no lying, and no intoxicants, but he actually doesn't teach this way. That sounds like a bunch of rules and commandments. It sounds like it's black and white. I'm going to be using the original words of the Buddha to help you understand what the 5 precepts are. We're going to be exploring and investigating and examining those words. Then I'm going to be applying it to your day-to-day life so you can see how to apply these 5 precepts in certain decisions that you're making in day-to-day life. Then we take an 1.5-hour lunch break typically. And when we come back, I'm going to be teaching walking meditation from 1:30 till 3. So you guys are welcome to attend as little or as much of today's class as you like. We even have classes tomorrow. And even on Friday, we have a tour where I'm guiding students on a tour going to a forest temple outside the city and then one up on top of the mountain called Wat Doi Sutiep. So you're welcome to even come to that, even if you don't come to any other events, or even if somebody's not here right now that you might run into this week, you're more than welcome to come on Friday and just come to the field trip by being here at 9 a.m. because we start class each day at 9 a.m. So if you'd like to join for meditation, the way that I do this is I start with some chanting, and these chants that I do, they're on a laminated sheet on the table over there, and you're welcome to get a laminated sheet and see the chants that I'm chanting. You're even welcome to join along in the chanting if you like. We chant in the Pali language, which is the historical language that is used in order to capture the teachings of the Buddha. During the lifetime of the Buddha, they used chanting as a way to commit the teachings to their memory. So when you're chanting, it's not a rite, a ritual, or a ceremony or worship. It's not any kind of prayer or anything like that. There's nothing mystical or magical with these chants. Instead, it's to help ease your mind into meditation and actually get more benefit out of the meditation itself. During the lifetime of the Buddha, the chanting was used as a way to commit the teachings to memory because everything that he taught was oral. And the way that they would remember the teachings is they would recite them every 2 weeks. They would recite them through chanting, and this committed them to their memory so that then they could actually practice them. The technology to write things down didn't exist in that region of the world. It existed in China at that time. This was 2,500 years ago. So when the Buddha was teaching, everything was oral. They didn't write things down until after he died. So they used chanting just as a way to commit the teachings to memory. So you can understand that there are no rites, rituals, ceremonies, or worship in the teachings of the Buddha. This isn't prayer or anything like that. There isn't anything mystical or magical. So I'll be chanting to ease us into the meditation. Then I'll provide you some guidance during the meditation. Then there's going to be a period of time where we're just meditating together. Those of us here at the temple and everyone online will just meditate together. And it'll be fairly quiet, but I'm sure you're going to hear occasional sounds because it's not possible to be in an environment that's permanently quiet. There's going to be occasional sounds. So when you hear anything or things like this, you'll hear the guidance that I share where you can just cut that off, let it go, and bring the mind back to the breath. Then we'll come out of the meditation with some more chanting. And then that's where I'll start today's topic in helping you guys understand more of the teachings of the Buddha. So if you'd like to join for meditation, oftentimes people learn in the seated position, either sitting on the floor in a chair. If you're at home, you might be on a sofa or a bench or a wheelchair or something like this. You just sit however you're comfortable, but I will give you a little bit of guidance to maybe help you to understand how to sit a little bit more comfortable, but it's up to you how you sit, because everybody's body is a little bit different. This isn't about everybody doing it exactly the same way, so you're going to need to find what's comfortable for you. If you're on the floor, typically people will have a cushion under their rear, or maybe multiple cushions under their rear with their legs lightly crossed. If you have them real tight, then the circulation can be impeded and you can notice pain in the body. So you're not interested in being in pain. So if you cross your legs just lightly, this will allow the circulation to flow. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets the hips up in the air and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles. So if that's what you would like to do, feel free to do that. Then with your hands and arms, the Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together like this, and he put this into his lap. If you would like to use that, you can, but there's other options too. Maybe you don't find that to be very comfortable. So there's other options like putting your palms on your thighs or your knees. Some people like to put their palms up, or even rest your hands comfortably in your lap. So you find whatever is comfortable for you with the lower body and the hands and arms. And for those of you guys in chairs, usually people sit with their feet flat on the floor or cross at the ankles, and then same thing, put your hands and arms wherever you would like. But you could even cross your legs in a chair too, like what I'm doing. This chair, I'm just sitting here with my legs crossed. So you find whatever's comfortable for you. The upper body should be erect. When you have the upper body erect, this keeps the mind attentive and alert during the meditation, so you can actively train the mind in this purposeful training session. Also, by having your sternum up and your shoulders back, it helps you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose, so you can breathe more easily. So that is very helpful during your meditation. So again, I'm going to ease us into meditation with some chanting, and then I'm going to come back in with some guidance to be able to help you understand how to do meditation. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakava Bhutang Mahakavanang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti pisu Mahakava Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakato Rokavitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawap Manusarang Oto Bhagavate. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมะคะวะโพตังมะคะวันหังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมะคะวะตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมะคะวะโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสคาโตโรกาวิโตอนุเตโรปุริสาดัมมาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังโพโตภะคะวะติ Okay, if you'd like to ease your way out of meditation, okay, I would like to once again welcome all of you. Welcome to Wat Tung Yu. Those of you guys that are here, welcome to everyone online as well. For those of you guys that it's your first time here, I'd like to let you know that there's a bathroom in the very back of the room. If you'd like to use that restroom at any time, feel free to help yourself. There's even restrooms outside this classroom. If you go outside the classroom and go out into the parking lot, you'll see signs that take you around to the main temple bathroom. So you're welcome to use that at any time to make yourself comfortable. We even have water and snacks and juice and things like that are here. It's provided by our students that you're welcome to help yourself to at any point. So the teachings of the Buddha, they are here to help anybody and anybody who's interested to be able to eliminate their sadness, their anger, their frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. By the time you get to enlightenment, you don't experience any of these discontent feelings. There's a path that the Buddha shared that is for you to learn and grow and develop and cultivate the mind through acquiring wisdom and through training of the mind. The Buddha essentially discovered 10 individual pollutions in the mind that when these are eradicated and eliminated from the mind, you'll experience this brightness and this radiance, this joy in the enlightened mind. The mind will be peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. You no longer experience any of those discontent feelings as you're making your way to enlightenment. The mind will ultimately get to a point where those feelings aren't experienced any longer because you've removed the causes and conditions that are producing it. You'll notice that you have focus, concentration, clarity, deep memory. This is because the mind is performing optimally, having eliminated these pollutions out of the mind. You'll notice that your personal and professional relationships will really blossom because you're not being bitter and harsh and hostile in your relationships any longer. Because as long as you're doing that in your relationships, those things are going to come back to you. So if you're bitter and harsh and hostile to your parents or your siblings or friends or coworkers, all this is just going to come back to you. They're going to treat you the same way that you treat them. So you can transform your mind to get to a point where you're not even in a bad mood anymore because you've eliminated the causes and conditions that are producing it. In terms of the individual pollutions that the Buddha discovered, those 10 individual pollutions, we refer to them as the 10 fetters. The reason why they're called a fetter is that during ancient times, over 2,500 years ago, if you were a prisoner, what they would do is attach a fetter to your ankle, and this is how they would keep you confined in a certain area. Nowadays, we put prisoners in a jail cell, but back then it was just open land, and they would attach this shackle and a chain and a ball around your ankle, and it would keep you confined to a certain area, and that's a fetter. So the Buddha describes these 10 fetters as keeping you trapped in the unenlightened state, where you keep experiencing the anger and the sadness and the frustration and all those discontent feelings over and over and over again. So if you're tired of experiencing these feelings, if you're tired of the struggles and difficulties of life, if you're tired of the broken relationships over and over and over again and having the same problems over and over, this is what the teachings of the Buddha are for, is to help you gain the wisdom of how to train your mind and then be able to make improved decisions, which will lead to wholesome results in your life. His teachings aren't a bunch of beliefs that if you believe a bunch of things, something good happens when you die. That's not what he did. He didn't teach a bunch of rules or commandments, and if everybody follows these rules and commandments, the world would become a peaceful place. He didn't explain to you the way the world should be. He explained to you the way the world is. And by understanding the way the world is and awakening the mind to this wisdom, you can navigate the world more readily, making wise decisions that's going to produce wholesome results. Because when you lack wisdom about what we refer to as the natural laws of existence, you're going to struggle and have difficulties. That's what the anger and the stress and the anxiety and all those other discontent feelings are. It's an indication to you that your mind is lacking certain wisdom and your mind is not yet been trained. So you don't have to experience these feelings, but in the unenlightened state, you will experience these feelings. So what I'm going to share with you today in this morning's talk is transforming the mind, learning about the 3 poisons or the 3 unwholesome roots or the 3 fires. These are referred to as craving, anger, and ignorance. And what this is a high-level description of those 10 fetters. The 10 fetters is the most deep, detailed teaching on the pollutions of the mind that the Buddha has, but he teaches in this layered effect. And in this course yesterday, I taught students the 4 Noble Truths. The 4 Noble Truths gives you like a window into the unenlightened mind, and in 4 simple statements, you learn what is the problem in the mind, the cause of the problem, the elimination of it, and the path forward. And students are able to independently verify that the teachings are true because there's no belief in the teachings of the Buddha, but you can learn them, examine them, you can reflect on them to independently verify them, and you can practice them, integrating them into your life and experience the improvements and the results. So as I talk today about the 3 poisons, I encourage you to do the same thing, is not to believe anything that I say. Don't believe anything that I write in books. Don't believe anything that anybody else says, because belief, you don't know what's true or false. You're just believing it because maybe you convinced yourself to believe it or somebody else convinced you to believe it. And your mind can easily be shaken up when you don't know the truth and you don't have wisdom. But when you learn something, you investigate it and examine it to learn it intellectually. Then you reflect on it to independently verify whether it's true or false. And then you start practicing what is being taught and you see the condition of the mind improving. Then you'll have wisdom to know what is the truth. So when I share with you the 3 poisons today, you'll be able to hear things that I'm sharing with you that represents what you experience in life because of these 3 poisons, and every unenlightened being has these 3 poisons. As I describe the various examples as I'm talking today, you'll be able to hear things that mirror your life and what it is that you experience on a day-to-day basis, because these 3 poisons are in your mind. If you still experience anger and sadness and frustration and these other discontent feelings, then these 3 poisons are in your mind. So what I'm going to be doing for you is explaining to you what these are, And I'm going to be giving you examples along the way so that you can see that you are experiencing these three poisons. And then I'm going to also provide you the solutions of how to uproot these and eliminate them from the mind. So in this way, you can be learning, reflecting, and practicing rather than believing what I'm saying. Essentially, what you're doing on the path to enlightenment is you're purifying the mind by awakening to what's called the natural laws of existence. That when you lack wisdom of natural laws and you lack wisdom of these three poisons or these three unwholesome roots, you will end up struggling and having certain difficulties, experiencing discontentedness because you don't understand the world that you live in. So when you were lacking wisdom of other natural laws, we all experienced the same thing. That when we were waking up, when we were first born and we didn't understand the natural law of gravity, we struggled and had difficulties with this natural law, that we fell down, we hit our head, we bumped our elbows, we broke our toys, we had all kinds of difficulties with this natural law of gravity because we didn't understand the world that we lived in. But then slowly but surely, we gained wisdom of this natural law of gravity. And that's where we started making wiser decisions and we started experiencing more wholesome outcomes. We started tying our shoes tighter. We started looking at the surface of the sidewalk as we were walking, and we experienced improved results because we had wisdom of this natural law. So therefore, when we made wise decisions, we experienced wholesome results. But when we lacked wisdom, we made unwise decisions inadvertently, not because we're a bad person or anything like that, but just because we lacked wisdom. So we fell down, we hit our head, we broke our toys, we had all kinds of difficulties. But now we're at the point where we fully awoke to this natural law of gravity. And now we can climb ladders, we can ride bicycles, we can get on airplanes and travel all over the world because we understand the natural law of gravity. So there's other natural laws that are affecting you, whether you're aware of them or not. Just like the natural law of gravity, it affected us when we were 2 years old, 3 years old, 4 years old. Whether we were aware of it or not, it still affected us. So these natural laws that the Buddha taught, they're affecting you, whether you're aware of them or not. But once you're aware of them and you have the wisdom of them, then you can actually make wise decisions that will produce wholesome results. So part of this awareness is to understand and be aware of the pollutions that are in the mind, so that then when you understand the problem and you understand the solution, you can implement that solution and experience the results. Because as you're learning and growing and developing your mind on this path, if you're in a situation where at one time you used to get angry or frustrated and sad or any other discontent feelings, and you've been training your mind, and now you notice in that same situation your mind's peaceful, your mind's joyful, you'll know that it's these teachings that have helped you to be able to accomplish that. So that's why you're not interested in believing the teachings, but instead learn them, reflect on them to independently verify them, and practice them. And this is where you get to wisdom. And now you can have wisdom about these natural laws, make wiser decisions, and experience improved results in your life. We refer to this as kama or karma. Some people refer to it as karma. This is the Sanskrit word, where the original teachings of the Buddha are in the Pali language. In the Pali language, we use the word kama. Now, if this word translated to just one English word, I would just use it because it's easier for everyone to understand it. This word kama or karma, what it means is cause and effect or action and result. It's not anything mystical or magical. It's not about punishments and rewards. It's not about some being controlling you or forcing you to do anything. It's about the results of your decisions. When you make wise decisions, you will experience wholesome results. And when you make unwise decisions, you'll experience unwholesome results. This is the cause and effect. And when you lack wisdom of this natural law, you're going to tend to make unwise decisions, and it's going to produce unwholesome results without you even realizing it. You might think you have all the best intentions in the world. You might think that you're talking to people in all the best ways, and this thing can blow up on you without even realizing it because your mind just doesn't have the wisdom of this natural law of karma. So what I'm going to be teaching you here is I'm going to be teaching you about these three poisons and helping you to see how they're affecting you on a day-to-day basis and causing difficulties and struggles. And then I'm going to share with you how to actually eliminate them from the mind. And as we go, I'm going to stop at different times and open up to questions. If you have questions here at the temple, we have microphones here in the white bowl. If you would be so kind as to get one of those. If you use a microphone, the people online will be able to hear you. Whereas if you just asked a question without a microphone, people online wouldn't be able to hear you. So if you get a microphone, you press the gray button on the front, the lights will come on for a brief period, and you hold it up to your reach in, and then we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online. And then you can keep the microphone with you because you can take it back to your seat. Just take it back with you because you might have more than one question, or someone around you might have a question, and you can just share the microphone with them. And then for those of you guys on Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, you can ask questions by putting that into the comments section, and I'll be able to see that here. Or in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand and ask any and all questions that you like. So let me first help you to understand the three poisons from a high level. That these three poisons, or three unwholesome roots, or three fires, these are also referred to as the defilements, or the taints, or the pollutions. This is what's keeping the mind in the unenlightened state, that it causes the mind to act in unskillful ways and function in unskillful ways. It explains how when one makes decisions through these three poisons, you will experience unwholesome results, or unwholesome karma. And as you're experiencing this unwholesome karma, or these unwholesome results, what the unenlightened mind typically does with the lack of wisdom is you might look for somebody else to blame. When you're experiencing something unwholesome in your life, you might look around and try to find somebody else to blame for this. But what you learn, and as you grow and you can see the wisdom for yourself, is that it's your own decisions that are causing any particular results in your life, either wholesome or unwholesome. It's coming from your decisions. And when you have wisdom and you're eliminating these pollutions, more and more you can make decisions through the three wholesome roots. Because when you make decisions through the three unwholesome roots, it's going to lead to unwholesome results, or unwholesome karma. But when you make decisions through the three wholesome roots, it's going to produce wholesome results, or wholesome karma. So these three poisons, or three unwholesome roots, or three fires, they explain the problems that are in the mind, but there's also certain antidotes or remedies or solutions to these. And this is what the Buddha shared during his life is, yes, he taught meditation, and meditation is important, and you'll see that's part of the solution, but there's a whole lot more that an individual would need to learn and grow and develop in order to train their mind to get to enlightenment. You can't just sit under a tree and meditate and get to enlightenment. This is one of the biggest myths about the life story of the Buddha. Sometimes people think he sat under a tree, he meditated, and instantly got to enlightenment, but this isn't actually true. When you read his teachings and you see what he taught, he talks about this gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. And you know this to be true because everything you've ever done in life has been that way. Whether it's learning to read and write and speak English, or whether it's some job or occupation that you have, it's been gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress that has led to any development or growth in your life. So getting to enlightenment is exactly the same way. It's gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. So meditation is part of this that you would need to learn and grow and develop and practice in order to get to enlightenment. But there's other teachings that you need as well. And one of those teachings is understanding the three unwholesome roots, and then understanding the three wholesome roots to be able to transform the mind and essentially clear out this pollution so that the brightness and the radiance of the enlightened mind can shine through. One of the ways you might think about it is like the sun, and then it's got clouds in front of it. And when the clouds are peeled away, then the brightness and the radiance of the sun can shine through. The rays of the sun can shine through. So it's the same thing, is that the mind, the natural state of the mind is enlightened, but with these pollutions in the way, it's going to hinder you from being able to experience that brightness and radiance of the enlightened mind. But as you peel this back, then you'll see more and more of the qualities of the enlightened mind starting to shine through. So I'm going to first teach you what the three poisons are from a high level, which each one of them are, and then we're going to go into them in detail, and that's where I'm going to provide you the solutions and open up to questions that you guys might have. So from a high level, we talk about the pollutions of the mind through the three unwholesome roots, or three fires, or three poisons, as craving, anger, and ignorance, or this unknowing of true reality. There's also other ways to refer to them, as greed, hatred, and delusion. Some people even refer to it as desire, ill will, or confusion. This is the three things that are, from a high level, plaguing the unenlightened mind. What craving or desire or longing or yearning is this unquenchable thirst where the mind is chasing after things, wanting things to be permanently pleasing. So you might chase after more money, and you chase and chase and chase and chase and chase, thinking thinking that this money is going to somehow make your life better, and that, gosh, if I was just rich, everything would be better in my life. Or you might chase after a boyfriend or a girlfriend and think that this person is going to make you feel whole. And if I can just get a boyfriend or girlfriend in my life, everything would be perfect. Or if I can just get that new house, that's what I need, is a new house. That'll solve everything. Let me just chase after that. Or no, that's not what it is. It's a new job. That's what I need. Let me chase that for a while. And the mind might chase that for a while. So there's like this unquenchable thirst where the mind is longing, yearning, and chasing after things. And if it gets what it wants, it gets pleasant feelings. When your mind accomplishes a certain craving or goal, a craving, desire, attachment, where it's longing and yearning for something, you'll get feelings like happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, euphoria. But if you don't get what you want, then there's these painful feelings that come into the mind. The painful feelings are things like anger and sadness, frustration, agitation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety. And when these feelings are coming up in the mind, these painful feelings, the mind is uncomfortable with those, and it will typically associate these feelings with something external. The mind will think that mom and dad are making me angry, or my brothers and sisters are frustrating me, or my boss is annoying me, when in reality what's causing these feelings to arise is within your own mind. It's the craving, desire, attachment that's causing these. It's not something external. It's the mind causing these feelings itself. It's the longing, yearning, and the chasing after things. And again, if the mind gets what it wants, it gets pleasant feelings. And if it doesn't get what it wants, it gets painful feelings. So for example, when you wake up in the morning, if it's sunny outside and you get so excited when you see it's sunny, yay, it's sunny outside. You might get so excited and so happy because you're going outside and you get to play. But then when it starts raining, you will get sad or frustrated or agitated. This is because the mind is craving and longing and yearning. It wants something to be a certain way, and it can only be happy if it gets what it wants. This is called a conditioned feeling. That when the mind is experiencing a craving, desire, attachment, and it gets what it wants, it will get those pleasant feelings. But when it doesn't get what it wants, it gets the painful feelings like the anger, sadness, and others. Same thing's happening like your bank account. If your bank account's a certain balance, you might get really happy or excited. But then if the balance goes down, you might get sad or frustrated or agitated. Or say your mom and dad does this particular thing, you might be happy or excited about that. But then when they don't do that thing, you get angry or frustrated. It's the mind wanting things to be a certain way. This is the craving, the desire, the attachment. We're going to talk about it more here in a moment, and I'll give you some more examples. When the cravings aren't getting fulfilled, this is where the second poison can arise. The anger, the frustration, the agitation, the annoyance. And when the mind experiences these painful feelings and it lacks wisdom to realize your own mind is causing this, you'll falsely attribute those painful feelings to something external. And you might think that mom or dad or brothers or sisters are causing this. And this is where you will oftentimes push people away out of your life, thinking that that's going to solve the problem. So if you've been pushing people away out of your life, you'll notice that it doesn't solve the problem because you still get angry, you still get agitated. If this was the actual true cause of the problem, when you push people away out of your life or you push the situation out of your life, you wouldn't get angry or sad or frustrated any longer because you have just solved your problem. But that's not the real cause of the problem. So that's why when you push people away, you still get angry, you still get sad, you still get frustrated because they're not actually causing the problem. Or the second thing you might do when you don't understand the wisdom that your own mind is causing these feelings is you might become bitter and hostile and harsh towards people when this anger is arising. Through your intentions, your speech, and your actions, you can become hostile and bitter and harsh and aggressive to other people. And then they might choose to leave out of your life. This is almost like an animal showing its teeth or growling or roaring at another animal, trying to fear this animal to do things your way. But you're not an animal, you're a human being. So you can function as a wise human being where you can be loving and kind and gentle with people. But with craving in your mind and without the wisdom to know that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings, you might be bitter, harsh, and hostile towards people. And then this ends in a broken relationship. relationship, or at the very least, a damaged relationship. And then the third thing that can happen when you don't understand the problem is that you might put your expectations on people, and you might be trying to control people to do things your way. And people might be trying to do that to you. People might be trying to control you to do things their way. So as long as you have these cravings in the mind, wanting things to be a certain way, you can't experience getting what you want permanently. Things aren't going to go your way all the time. But as long as the mind's craving this permanence and wanting things to be a certain way, in some cases you're going to get what you want, in other cases you aren't. And when this anger comes up, if you just push people away, or you're bitter, harsh, and hostile, or you put your expectations on people, you're just going to keep having troubled relationships over and over. You won't be able to live harmoniously with all people, because the mind's thinking if it can just get its cravings fulfilled, everything will be fine. And where all of this is coming from is this third poison. It's translated into ignorance, but I tend to not use this word. I just have it here because other teachers use this. And if you ever studied anywhere else, you'll know what they're talking about. What I prefer to use is the unknowing of true reality, because ignorance is like a derogatory word, and a Buddha doesn't speak that way. An enlightened being doesn't talk to people in derogatory, degrading, and diminishing ways. So the unknowing of true reality is a better way to think about it, or confusion, or misunderstanding, or misperception. Essentially, the unenlightened mind just doesn't understand what it doesn't understand. It doesn't understand that your mind is causing your own discontent feelings. Oftentimes, the mind firmly believes that other people are causing you to be angry. But as you penetrate more and more into the teachings of the Buddha, and you don't believe them, and you learn them, you reflect on them to independently verify them, and you practice them, you can see that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. And the beauty in this is that when you discover that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings, because of that, you can actually eliminate them. If it's everybody else that's causing you to be angry and sad and frustrated, you can't do anything about your feelings. That means you're just going to always be angry and frustrated for the rest of your life. There's nothing you can do to fix it. But if you can see the truth that your mind is causing these feelings, and there's certain causes and conditions that are producing it, and now you apply the solutions and you train your mind through acquiring wisdom, now you can actually fix it. That's why the Buddha was able to get to the peace and the joy, because he was able to train his mind to eliminate these pollutions, gaining this wisdom to now be able to get to the peace and the joy. It wasn't other people that were causing the Buddha to be angry and frustrated when he was unenlightened. It was his own mind. So when he trained his own mind, he was able to then get to the peace and the joy. And you can too. There's no difference between your mind and the Buddha. Pretty much it functions exactly the same way. There's one aspect of a mind of a Buddha that's very different than an average human being, but nonetheless, your mind functions essentially the same way as a Buddha, and you're able to get to this same enlightened mental state that he did. And part of that is gaining this wisdom. That's what's going to transform the mind away from this unknowing of true reality or this ignorance, because now when you have the wisdom of understanding that craving is the problem and anger, then you can apply the tools and techniques to fix it and eradicate it. So while we call it craving, anger, and ignorance, it's really because of ignorance that craving and anger continues to exist. If it wasn't for the lack of wisdom, the craving and anger would have already been eradicated and eliminated. So I'm going to talk about each one of these in more detail and giving you guys some more examples, and then I'm going to give you the solutions for these too. So craving, desire, attachment, this is the longing, the yearning, the mind chasing after the objects of your affection, wanting things to be a certain way. The mind is craving permanence, but yet it lives in an impermanent world. So for example, when you had a boyfriend or girlfriend and you guys were together, when you first got together, it was probably such a happy time. You had such a great time, right? You didn't know this person. They were interested in you. They were showing you affection. They were maybe sending you text messages, inviting you out to dinner or movies. Maybe you're going to the park, having great conversations. You might have even been having intimate contact at different times. You didn't have any expectations of them, and they didn't necessarily have any expectations of you at that point. There wasn't anything you wanted from this person. It was just a new person in your life, and you were just interested to get to know them. And at that first first part of the relationship, it couldn't have been better. Everything was so wonderful. But then slowly but surely, you started having all these expectations of this person. And this person started having expectations of you as well. And now as all these expectations were growing and growing and growing, you couldn't get what you wanted all the time, and they couldn't get what they wanted all the time. So you became angry and frustrated, and they became angry and frustrated, and now you guys decided to break up and split up. And now you might have been sad, or you might have been angry or frustrated, or you might have been lonely or bored. This is because the mind had craving, desire, attachment, the longing, the yearning, wanting this person to be permanent in your life. The mind was holding on to this person, craving permanence. And as long as you were getting what you wanted, the mind was happy. But when the mind didn't get what it wanted, it was angry or sad or frustrated or some other painful feeling. So in this world, you can't get what you want permanently because of the universal truth of impermanence. This is one of the universal truths. This is one of the things that you can look around the world and independently verify, that everything is constantly changing. There isn't anything in the world that is permanent. If you look around the world, your body is impermanent. It's constantly changing. The weather is impermanent. It's constantly changing. Your bank account is impermanent. It's constantly changing. Your relationships are impermanent. People are coming and going in and out of your life all the time. Everything is constantly changing. But with craving, desire, attachment in the mind wants things to be permanent, and it's holding on and holding on and holding on. And when it gets what it wants, it gets those pleasant feelings. But those pleasant feelings are what's called a conditional feeling. These conditional feelings, they arise, they change, and they fade away. So even when you get so happy, it's just temporary. It's ultimately dissatisfying because it fades away. So if you get so happy when you get that brand new job, 6 months later, a year later, you'll be sad or frustrated or bored, and you'll feel like, I don't like this job anymore. Or you get so happy when you get that boyfriend or girlfriend, eventually you're going to get angry or sad or frustrated because the mind is basing its inner feelings on some condition. So if the mind gets so happy when it's sunny outside, that is not a permanent thing. The sun is not permanent. So this is why you haven't been able to get to permanent happiness, is because the mind is experiencing conditional happiness, is that I will be happy based on the condition of this thing occurring. And when this thing occurs, the mind is then happy. That's called conditional happiness. But with all these things in the world around you being impermanent, as soon as you base your happiness on some condition, when that condition changes, that means your feeling's going to change too. You can't be happy permanently as long as you're experiencing conditional happiness. So if you get happy when you have a boyfriend or girlfriend, that means when you don't have one, you'll be sad or frustrated. If you get happy when you have a job, you'll be sad when you don't have one. If you get happy and excited when it's sunny outside, you'll be sad when it's raining. So this is the mind experiencing conditional feelings that is essentially goes up and down in the unenlightened state. Because the mind doesn't have the training to understand this, then the mind keeps craving. This is why when someone dies, if grandma and grandpa dies, when you're grieving and you're sad and you're sorrowful, it's not because of your love. Oftentimes people think that it's love that's causing the mind to be sad when somebody dies. What love is a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. It's active goodwill towards other beings. This doesn't cause sadness. What's causing the sadness is the mind's holding on to grandma and grandpa, wanting them to be permanent, when in reality they are not permanent. They were born, so they had to die. That's the only reason. We all die for the same reason. We all die because we were born, right? So grandma and grandpa's going to die. But if the mind's holding on and wanting them to be permanent, then when they do die, the mind's not getting what it wants. It wants grandma and grandpa to be alive. And as long as they're alive, the mind's happy. But then when they die, this is where the sadness and frustration comes in. The same thing can happen if you're going to a wedding. Perhaps you've cried at a wedding, or you've grieved at a wedding, or maybe people around you were grieving at a wedding. This is because when you go to brother and sister's wedding or your friend's wedding, they're going off into life with a relationship with somebody else, and your mind is holding on to them, wanting them to be with you. You're craving this permanence. So now this ceremony where they're going off into the world with someone else, you might cry or you might grieve at a wedding. This can also happen if you're going away to university or college. If your parents drop you off, you might grieve, or they might grieve, because the mind's holding on, wanting it to be permanent. The mind doesn't understand this universal truth of impermanence, that things are constantly changing and you're not going to be in a permanent relationship. Everything in the world is impermanent. So with this craving, desire, attachment, this unquenchable thirst where the mind's just chasing, it thinks the next new shiny object waiting around the corner is going to provide some lasting satisfaction. It thinks, I feel painful, I feel miserable. What's going to fix it? More money. That's what I need. More money. Let me chase after that. And then you chase after that for a while. And if you get it, you'll get happy. But if you don't get happy, or if you don't get it, you won't be happy. You'll be sad or frustrated. And then the mind thinks, I know what I need. I need a boyfriend or girlfriend. Let me chase after that for a while. So the mind might chase after that for a while, and then you get that. And now the mind's happy for a period of time, but then it fades away, right? Or, I know what I need. I need a new job. Let me get that. And the mind will chase after that. So there's this unquenchable thirst where the mind is falsely thinking the way to get to happiness is through something external. So as long as craving is in the mind, this desire, this longing, this yearning, chasing after these things, some cases you'll get what you want and you'll get those pleasant feelings, but ultimately that's dissatisfying because those feelings are only temporary and they fade away, and the mind ends up right back in the painful feelings. So the way to solve this is through breathing mindfulness meditation and generosity. These are two individual trainings that specifically target craving, desire, attachment, where it's training the mind to let go. In reality, there's an entire path that the Buddha teaches. It's called the Eightfold Path. And I taught this yesterday in our class, and I've taught it at other times too. It's been recorded. It's in the books that I share. It's in audiobooks. It's on podcasts and videos and things like this. You can easily learn this. I teach it in all the different classes, courses, and retreats that I teach. It's 8 individual steps that you learn and grow and develop, and you train your mind through this Eightfold Path. So you would need to learn that in order to get to enlightenment. But in terms of targeting this craving, as part of this Eightfold Path, there's something called breathing mindfulness meditation. And this is what we just did this morning, where we are focusing on the breath. And anytime the mind moves off the breath, you cut it off and let it go, and you bring the mind back to the breath. So if you were in meditation and you were having a bombardment of thoughts, where it was just like thought, this is very normal when you first start meditating. Or you might have had a thought, and you indulged in that thought for a period of time and you followed it. And then at some point, the mind realized, I'm meditating. Let me bring my mind back to the breath, right? So these are common things that the mind does during meditation. The goal of this meditation isn't to eliminate your thoughts. That's not what your ultimate goal is. The goal is to train your mind to notice when you've had a thought and to be able to readily let it go. So that if during your meditation you had to let go, maybe 10, 20, 30 times, this is actually very good for the mind because it helps the mind to let go. Because with craving, desire, attachment in the mind, you will hold on to things, wanting things to be permanent. That's why when you and your partner broke up, for a period of time, you were sad, you were frustrated, you were lonely and bored because you were holding on, wanting this person to be permanent in your life. But at some point, you might have let go. And when you let go, that's when the mind gained its peacefulness and it regained its joy. If he wants to be with another person, so be it. Or if she wants to be with another person, so be it. You let go. And that's where your peace came in. So that's why with the meditation, you're training your mind to let go, let go, let go. The goal isn't to eliminate your thoughts. It's to train your mind to let go so that in daily life, you're not holding on to things, wanting them to be permanent. The same thing is true with generosity. When you're practicing the giving and sharing of more than is strictly required in any given situation without any expectation of anything in return, you're training your mind to let go. So if you're sharing your time, your effort, your energy, your resources with other people, you can train your mind to let go. Because with craving, desire, attachment in the mind will become somewhat selfish. You will hold on to things. My money, my computer, my phone, my clothes, my jewelry, mine. And the mind will hold on to these things, my food, right? But when you practice generosity, you're living open-handedly. You're sharing with other people, and you're taking joy in sharing with other people. And when you do that, you're training your mind to let go. So each day, if you choose to practice some generosity, you will be able to then train your mind to let go. But you need to practice generosity without any expectation of anything in return. If you have an expectation of something in return, that's a craving, desire, attachment. That's the longing, the yearning. So I oftentimes advise people to start with small things in terms of generosity. Like you're walking into a store and you see there's someone behind you, you can hold the door and let them in, right? It'll only take you 3 seconds, 5 seconds. They can go in before you. You can just hold the door. But you need to be able to do this without any expectation of anything in return. Because if you're standing there holding the door with the expectation that they will say thank you, when they don't say thank you, you'll be frustrated, you'll be agitated, you'll be annoyed, right? Because of the expectation. That's not yet pure generosity. So you would like to hold the door without any expectation of anything in return, because it's not possible for every single person to say thank you. That would be permanence. But if you look around the world, there's the universal truth of impermanence, that it's not possible for every single person to say thank you. But as long as your mind's craving or expecting that thank you, then your mind will be discontent. So you need to get to the point where you're willing to practice generosity just because it's a wise thing to do, and it enhances the quality of your mind, not because you want something in return. If you're only sharing because you want something back for that, that's not pure generosity. You need to be able to share without any expectation of anything in return, including even a simple thank you. So it's breathing, mindfulness, meditation, and generosity that trains the mind to let go and eliminate its craving, desire, attachment. Do you guys have any questions on this particular poison or the solutions that I'm talking about here? I'm just going to check online, see if we have any questions here. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions here or online. So let's go to the next one. The next one is the anger. So as I mentioned, when there's craving in the mind and you get what you want, you get those pleasant feelings like happiness, excitement, elation. But when the mind doesn't get what it wants, it gets the painful feelings, the bitterness, the hostility, the harshness, the aggression towards others, because the mind falsely thinks that other people are causing you to be angry. And because of this, the mind almost feels justified in its anger. And this is where you can become bitter and harsh and hostile. You can become unskillful in your intentions, your speech, and your actions. And now when you're putting that out towards other people, this is what comes back to you. So if you treat mom and dad or brothers and sisters or your friends or your neighbors or your co-workers with bitterness and hostility, you probably have people that treat you that way too. But you can get to the point where your mind doesn't do that anymore, where you can become wise and you can become skillful, where you don't allow this anger to take over your mind and then become unskillful. You can get to the point where you completely eliminate your cravings, desires, attachments, and you never experience anger ever again. But you need to be able to transform the mind to be able to do that and gradually train it to that direction. But as long as this anger is in the mind, you're going to experience that hostility, that bitterness, that harshness. You might have been in arguments before where you were just adamantly trying to convince people that they were causing you to be angry, when in reality, it's your own mind that's causing the mind to be angry. Now, that person could have been doing something that was unwise, but that's not what's causing your anger. So that example that I gave you with the boyfriend or girlfriend where you're breaking up, right? You can see that your mind is holding on, but you can also see it with craving, desire, attachment. Like say you had a car, a brand new car that you bought. And now when you park this brand new car at the store and you go in and you come out and you see a scratch on your car and you get frustrated when you see that scratch, it's not the scratch that's causing your frustration. And it's not the person who scratched your car that's causing this frustration. What's causing the frustration is the mind's craving for this car to be permanently beautiful. And it can't be, because you live in an impermanent world. It's going to get a scratch, right? Now, it'd be wonderful if nobody ever scratched your car. But that's not the world that we live in. We live in an impermanent world. And occasionally there's going to be things that happen. Maybe there's a kid pushing a cart. Maybe the wind comes up and blows the shopping cart into your car, right? And now your car gets scratched, right? So if your mind has a craving for this car to look permanently beautiful, when you see that scratch, you'll get frustrated or agitated or annoyed. And now when this anger is arising, this is where you might have aversion. What aversion is where you try to push the person away or you push the situation away. So if you've had a friend or family member do something that you disagree with, you might have experienced painful feelings and you decided to push this person away out of your life, thinking that that's going to solve the problem. But you can see that it didn't solve the problem because you just get angry or irritated or annoyed. It's only a matter of time before something else occurs and the mind gets angry or frustrated. This is called aversion, where you're pushing the person or you're pushing the situation away. The second thing you might do is you might become bitter and harsh and hostile through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. And this is where you damage relationships. And you don't need to feel guilty or shameful about any of these things. This is just the mind lacking wisdom, as we talked about in the third poison. But with the mind putting its aggression and hostility towards others, this is where you can damage your relationships. Or the person might feel so attacked that they might choose to leave out of your life. And this is where you can see in your life where you've been bitter, harsh, and hostile, there might have been people who've chosen to leave out of your life because they're not interested in that hostility or that bitterness. Or the third thing that you might do is you might put your expectations on people and you might try to control people and try to get them to do things your way. So what the mind's doing here is because it thinks that it wants to get things fulfilled in a certain way, it thinks that if I push people away, I can create this little bubble and people will do things my way. Or if I put my bitterness and hostility and aggression out at people, the mind's trying to fear people into doing things your way. Or when you put your expectations on people, the mind's trying to control people to do things your way. And the mind in the unenlightened state thinks if I can just get things done my way, everything will be perfect. But this doesn't work because people are just going to choose to leave out of your life as you're either pushing them away, being bitter, harsh, and hostile, or putting your expectations on people. In this situation, you can't live harmoniously with all beings, that it's only a matter of time before these relationships are over. You can't have these long-lasting, sustaining, and fulfilling and satisfying relationships because the mind is misunderstanding what the problem is. The more expectations, the more cravings that you have, the fewer and fewer people that you can spend time with. You might notice this as you age, that when you were younger, you could spend time with anybody and everybody because you didn't have expectations. When you showed up to the playground at the age of 8, you weren't expecting people to do any particular thing. You weren't wanting them to do any particular thing, so you could play with anybody and everybody. But then as you've aged, your mind has taken on these wants and expectations of things you want from other people to do. And now as those grow, the number of people that you can spend time with becomes fewer and fewer and fewer and fewer, right? Because it's only one person in the world that's going to do things your way. Do you guys know who that person is? Yourself, right? You're the only one. So if you can only spend time with people who do things your way, you're going to be pretty lonely. You're going to be all by yourself. But when you can get rid of these wants and expectations and wanting and craving and expecting people to be a certain way, you can love people unconditionally. And that's the solution to this particular poison, is getting to loving kindness where you can love people unconditionally. Because you can disagree with someone's choices and decisions while still loving the person. In the unenlightened state, you'll have problems with that. If you disagree with somebody or you disagree with what they're doing, you might have hatred towards them. You might have anger or frustration because you disagree with what they're doing. But when you get rid of your cravings, desires, attachments, and you realize everybody's making different decisions because of impermanence. We've all had different experiences in life, so we're not going to make the same decision. And there's not just one right answer in the world. When we have our ego in the mind, we'll think that there's only one right answer to any particular situation. And it's our way, right? Our way is the right way. and the way everyone else does it is the wrong way. And now when someone does it opposite of the way you will do it, you might disagree with this. And then when you disagree with it, you might start hating this person and then push them away, be bitter, harsh, and hostile, or put your expectations on people. But you can transform your mind. You can essentially rewire the mind to be loving and kind, having unconditional love, where you understand that you're not going to agree with everyone's decisions. I don't think there's anyone in here that agrees with every decision our parents made. Is there anyone who agrees with every single decision your parents ever made? Of course not, right? Because they had different experiences in life. But if our love is contingent on we have to agree with what this person does, and that's the only way we can get along with them is if they do what we want them to do, then like I mentioned, the number of people you can spend time with becomes fewer and fewer and fewer. So when you can use loving kindness meditation, you can transform the mind, you can rewire it. What loving kindness is when you have a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well, where you have active goodwill towards others. And part of having this active goodwill towards others and having a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well is to not put your expectations on others people and to not control other people to do things your way. Because when you're doing that, it's just trying to pressure people into getting your cravings fulfilled. And you don't like it when people put their expectations on you and try to control you, but the unenlightened mind doesn't think about that when you're trying to do it to someone else. Right? We think that everybody should do things our way. So with loving kindness meditation, you can rewire the mind where you can be loving and kind and gentle and warm to all the people around you. And there's this meditation that you can do that you're essentially doing affirmations in the mind, and it's essentially rewiring the mind. And then with that loving kindness, you go out into the world through your intentions, your speech, and your actions, and you treat people with loving kindness. But you'll find it very hard to do that if you haven't meditated and you haven't trained your mind with loving kindness meditation. Loving kindness meditation is like filling up your gas tank, and then you go out into the world and you practice loving kindness on a day-to-day basis, right? So when I was growing up, I had a lot of resentment towards my mom because I had all these expectations of things I expected my mom to do, and she didn't treat me the way I wanted her to treat me. So all through my childhood, in my early adulthood, I had this hostility and bitterness and resentment towards my mom, and I always wanted her to change, right? And every time we got together, it was only a matter of time before things erupted. There was fireworks whenever we were together, right? So as I saw this in my life and I didn't like it and I was interested to transform it, and I started doing this meditation, loving kindness meditation, I started changing the way I functioned. Because in the past, where mom would pick up the rubber ball of anger and she would throw this anger all over the room, I would pick it up and I'd throw it around the room too. Right? We would be arguing and fighting and bitter, and she'd pick it up and throw it, and I'd pick it up and throw it. Next thing you know, we got all this argument all over the room, right? But then when you train your mind with loving kindness meditation, you understand that it's not about changing other people. This is what I wanted to do all growing up. I wanted mom to change. I kept trying to force mom to change. But what I realized and what was actually successful is I needed to change. When I created the change within my own life, then mom was then able to see what she was having going on in her mind, and she was able to change. So in the past, where mom would pick up the rubber ball of anger and throw it around, and I would pick it up. So when she would argue and be bitter, harsh, and hostile, I would argue and be bitter, harsh, and hostile. That's what happened in the past. But once I started transforming my mind, when mom would be bitter, harsh, and hostile, I didn't do that back. I just watched the rubber ball roll to the corner of the room and it lost its energy. So where mom would be bitter, harsh, and hostile on the phone, perhaps, in the past where I would be argumentative back, I chose to do something different. What I would do is I would say things like, Mom, I know that I've been angry in the past and I've treated you unwell, but I'm choosing not to do that anymore. I value our relationships and I love you deeply. I'm going to get off the phone and let you think about what it is that you just said, and then we'll talk another time. I love you, Mom. Where in the past, where she would be bitter, harsh, and hostile, I'd do it right back. And next thing you know, we'd have this big argument. And it doesn't solve anything. So by me transforming my mind and being more loving and kind and just realizing she's being bitter, harsh, and hostile, I was able to be calm and gentle and loving and kind. And slowly but surely, she realized that she was being angry and bitter and harsh and hostile, and she transformed her mind. And by the time she died in 2017, we had a wonderful relationship. There was no hostility or bitterness or harshness between either one of us. It had been many years that those things had occurred. We were just only loving and kind and warm and gentle with each other. So while I kept wanting mom to change and I kept trying to force her to change, it never works. Right? You've got to do the work. You've got to improve the work. It was kind of like a log jam. I needed to take out the log of anger and hostility and bitterness. And when I took out those logs, then everything could flow in my life. But as long as you're wanting other people to change, you're not going to actually experience the real results. So this loving kindness meditation and practicing loving kindness in day-to-day life through your intention, speech, and actions, the Buddha gives you the exact details of how to do that through training. Here, I'm not explaining to you how to do these things. I'm just explaining to you this is what you need to do. And then there's various classes and courses and retreats where I teach you how to do these things of practicing loving kindness meditation and being loving and kind through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. So any questions on this anger, this hatred, this ill will, all those lesser versions like frustration, irritation, annoyance? Because by the time you get to enlightenment, you won't even have the slightest dislike towards another being. Right now, there's probably people you like and people you dislike. And this is just because of your cravings, the mind wanting people to be a certain way. But when you eliminate your cravings and you eliminate your anger, you can reside harmoniously with all beings. So question?
I want to know how to deal with the discrimination solution.
Mm-hmm. So if somebody's discriminating against you?
Yeah, when I go to a place, I can feel that. It's really uncomfortable.
Okay, so two things here. First thing is when you go anywhere or you do anything, it's important not to cling to what we call a perception. What a perception is your views and opinions about how things seem to be, but you don't necessarily know, right? So if you walk into an environment and somebody looks at you and you're like, oh, they're discriminating against me or they're racist or whatever, that's a perception. You haven't actually seen that to be true. They're just making a certain face. So it's important not to cling to a perception. Another way to think about a perception is an assumption. You're not interested in assuming anything. So if you go into a place and somebody kind of looks kind of strange at you, at this body, you don't necessarily know what they're thinking and what's on their mind. They might be looking out the window and they saw something odd. It might not even be you, right? But if the mind clings to a perception or an assumption, you could be making unwise decisions because you're basing your decisions on a false truth. So you're not interested in clinging to a perception. That's the first thing. The second thing is if somebody was truly discriminatory against you or racist or sexist or anything like this, the best thing that I can suggest for you is to walk away. Get away from that situation. If I was working at a job where people were racist or sexist, I would leave. I would find a new job because you can't change other people, right? The only way that somebody can create real change is they have to decide for themselves that they're interested to change. So if you're in a group of friends or an organization or a company where there's a lot of discrimination or sexism and things like this, and people are functioning that way normally and it's kind of normal mode of operation, it's best to just leave because you're not going to be able to change those people. Those people have to decide for themselves to change.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah, you're welcome. Did I see somebody else have a question? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, my question is, how do we distinguish desire from healthy ambition, such as like, I want to do well in my job, I want to get better at Muay Thai or something? Yeah, how's that different from like the first poison of craving?
Sure. The way that you discern this is through your mindfulness or your awareness of mind. That more and more you'll be able to observe the longing, the yearning, the pulling towards something. So it's not the object itself, it's how the mind is longing, yearning for it. Let me give you an example to help you see this. So like say I was going on a hike and I needed to take some water with me to go on this hike. Well, maybe I have this 2-liter bottle of water and I take it in the car with me. I pull up to the trailhead and I get out and I start walking down the path, and I'm going to be gone for 6 or 8 hours on this trail, hiking all day. And maybe 30 minutes into the hike, I realize, oh my goodness, I forgot my water. I forgot my water. And now you hurriedly go back to your car, rushing back to your car to get to the water. Maybe you sprain your ankle along the way. You sling open the door and you grab the water. Water. Oh, yes. The mind's longing, yearning, because the mind's shaken up here, right? There's a longing, yearning for the water. But you could also be out on that trail 30 minutes into your hike and realize, I forgot my water. I'm going to be out here for like 6-8 hours. I should probably go back and get it. Now let me go back, and you calmly walk back to your car and you go get your water, right? This is the same thing. It's still the water, but the mind, you need to be able to see it longing and yearning and chasing after something. So it's not just about, whether you do Muay Thai or not. You need to be observant of the mind and see if there's any longing and yearning. And the indication is that if you experience discontentedness, there is a craving there. So like, say, for example, you showed up to your gym and it was closed and you were frustrated or agitated. There's some craving there, right? There's some desire, there's some longing and yearning. But if you show up to your gym and it's closed and it's like, the gym's closed. I wonder what happened. Maybe the coach is having issues with their car. Maybe their mom had to go to the hospital. We don't know. So you know what? There's some impermanence here. The gym's closed. I'll find out maybe tomorrow or the next day. So let me just go about my day and go do something else. You can maintain your joy and your peacefulness if there's no craving. So you need to be observant of your mind to see, is there any discontentedness? And if there's discontentedness, there is a craving, desire, attachment there. Sometimes you can see the craving, desire, attachment before the discontentedness. You can see the longing, yearning, and the pulling towards something. So there's things that you can do to test the mind. Like, say you're getting ready to buy a new mobile phone and you're not quite sure whether it's a craving, desire, attachment. What you can do is you can go to the store and you can check out the mobile phones, check them out, look at them, talk to the salespeople, look at all the features, and then walk away. Go away. Of course, you're going to be polite, say, oh, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking your time to show these phones to me. I'm going to think about it and I'll come back another time, perhaps, right? And now you walk away and you observe the mind. Are you agitated? Are you annoyed? Is the mind like, oh gosh, I really want that new phone? If you notice that about the mind, that's the craving, desire, attachment. And that doesn't mean that you never get the phone. It just means that you need to train your mind to let go of this attachment before you get the phone. So now you might need to do that a few times where you go into the store, you check out the phones and you leave. And now you can be observant of the mind, because if there's discontentedness, there is a craving there. So your breathing mindfulness meditation is helping you to develop your mindfulness so that now in day-to-day life, you can observe, is the mind longing, yearning? Is it pulling towards something? That's an indication that it's a craving. Is there any discontentedness associated with this thing? That is an indication that there's a craving, desire, attachment. And then you would like to eliminate it. Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am. Once the lights come on, then they should work.
Thank you so much for everything you're saying. I'm taking so many notes. It's just so good. The kind of job I have, I can't just leave. I'm faced with a lot of really difficult things on a daily basis. I'm a public school teacher back in America. And I do recognize the people, places, and things around me, they are stirring things up within. But I can't leave. I want to be there. I look at it as a career, a job of service, and I enjoy my students, and I want to be with them. My question is, how do I gird myself or fuel myself? I get up very early in the morning. What do you suggest that maybe I do loving kindness meditation every morning before I start? Or what things can I do for my spirituality early morning before I start my big full day, to where I won't, because sometimes I come home and I'm just twisted up about things, and it's a lot of suffering for days and days, and then I realize, oh, I've got to let that go. I'd like to be able to do it sooner. Mm-hmm. So whatever you can speak to that, I would really appreciate.
Sure. Yeah, loving kindness meditation is a great meditation to do in the morning, because then you can go out in the world and be more loving and kind. And now your interactions will be more warm and loving with all people, your students, the administrators, and the people around you. And then that'll just produce wholesome karma for you. And as part of loving kindness meditation, you usually do a little bit of breathing mindfulness, like 3 to 5 minutes of breathing mindfulness. Then you go into loving kindness, and then you come out with a little bit of breathing mindfulness meditation. So I recommend people to do 2 or 3 meditation sessions per day and build up to 30 minutes or more. And that oftentimes takes 6 months, a year, even 2 years to build up to that. Out of that 2 or 3 sessions, at least one of them should be loving kindness. You could do more loving kindness, particularly if there's a lot of anger and frustration in the mind, but at least one of them. And if you choose the morning session, that's ideal, because you're going out into the world with more loving kindness. So that will help you to get going. But there's also all the other factors of the path that you would like to learn. Yesterday, I taught that during the class. It's been recorded, so you could easily go look at the recording on our YouTube channel or on our Facebook group. It's been recorded many times, because that's a core central teaching that you would need to learn to really get going on the path to enlightenment. So I would recommend that yes, you do loving kindness and breathing mindfulness meditation, but all those other factors are something that you're going to need too. Whereas if you were just meditating, you'll see some improvement, but you're not going to see the significant improvement unless you get all the factors of the Eightfold Path. And then something I'd like to add on to that is where, when you started talking, you were saying how like you have this job and you can't leave. It's important to remind yourself that you could leave. It's possible to leave, but the mind doesn't want to, right? It's holding on to this thing. And perhaps this is something that you really enjoy, but there's a lot of challenges in certain parts of the environment, right? And leaving from the job isn't going to fix the problem, right? Because if there's craving, desire, attachments, that the mind wants things to be a certain way in this environment, moving to another place, there'll just be other things that you disagree with in that place too, because the mind still has craving, desire, attachment. But it's always important to remind yourself that you could leave. It is possible to leave. But if the mind's holding on, it might perceive it as, I can't leave. And it's actually really helpful for the mind to realize that, yeah, actually, I could leave if that's what I would like to do, but I'm choosing to stay here because this is what I enjoy doing. That way you don't feel stuck and you don't feel pressured, because oftentimes when you feel stuck and pressured in a situation, it'll feel more containing, and automatically you'll have more discontentedness in that situation. But when you free your mind, realizing that, yes, I could leave if I would like to, but I'm choosing to stay, this gives you more freedom in that environment, because now you realize that you're there by choice, not because anybody's forcing you to be there. Mm-hmm. I saw a bunch of people grab mics, so I've lost track of who's next. So just whoever would like to go, you guys are welcome to go.
So I'm curious whether I'm thinking about this correctly, because earlier on you had said if there's discrimination or, racism, sexism, that kind of thing, to like leave the situation, right? Mm-hmm. Which is kind of like an aversion action in my mind that I'm thinking of, right? So, like I'm thinking about these items as perhaps things that should not be an uncontrolled, like mindless thing. For example, if someone is attacking me, for example, maybe in that moment, some aggression might be necessary to, like save myself from the situation. So am I right in thinking about this as approaching these, and that these are not necessarily never ever going to happen or to be avoided, but to treat them with wisdom and discernment?
Okay, so let's talk more about what aversion is, so you'll understand what aversion is, because I mentioned it, but let's go into it in more detail. So on the path to enlightenment, there's going to be certain relationships that you have right now that you're going to choose to let go of and move on from, right? Because maybe you're bitter and harsh and hostile, they're bitter, harsh and hostile, there's too much damage in the relationship, you're not committed to the relationship, and you're going to choose to let that go and just move on. Okay, we're going to come back to this in a minute and talk about it. Then there's certain relationships in your life right now that you're more committed to, right? And you're interested in working on your own mind, and you're committed to sorting this relationship out. You might put it on pause within your own mind, step away from it, work on your own mind, and then come back. This is like my mom and my wife and people like this. I needed to kind of like put this relationship on pause for a little bit, step away, work on my own mind, and then I was able to function better in this relationship. Then there's a third category of relationships that you'll form on the path to enlightenment, which are brand new people you haven't even met yet. You don't even know their names. You haven't even encountered them yet. From this point forward in your life, you're going to meet all kinds of people, and you'll only ever be loving and kind with those people. So now that's all you'll experience coming back to you in those relationships is loving kindness, because that's the way you'll function. So these are the three types of relationships. Some you're going to let go of, some you're going to kind of put on pause for a little bit, and you're going to work on that relationship because you're more committed to it. And then there's new relationships that you'll forge that you'll only ever be loving and kind with. These relationships that you're letting go of and you're moving on from, you can do this without aversion. From the outside looking in, it can look the same thing, is that you're moving on from a relationship. The difference is what aversion is where you have painful feelings and you falsely attribute it to this person or this situation, and you push it away and you think that that's going to solve the problem. So essentially, since you learned yesterday, you have a wrong view in this situation, that the mind thinks that this person is the problem, and the way for me to fix that is push them aside and move on, right? This is having wrong view, and you'll never solve your problems in that situation because you haven't been able to see that it's your own mind that's causing those painful feelings. But you can move on from a relationship while maintaining right view, what we call right view, which is understanding that it's your mind that's causing these discontent feelings. So you could have a situation where, using your example, where you're in a work environment, people are sexist or racist, there's a lot of disgruntledness in the work environment, and you realize, hey, this is too much going on here, and I prefer not to work in this kind of environment, and I'm going to move on from this environment. Any painful feelings that you're experiencing as a result, you can understand that it's your own cravings, desires, attachments that are producing those painful feelings. Leaving from this work environment isn't going to solve the painful feelings, but it will allow me to go to a new environment where people are more loving and kind. And that'll allow me to then function better in that environment. Where as long as I'm in this other environment where there's racism or sexism or discrimination or what have you, I can't be comfortable working in that environment with people who are functioning that way, because I can't apply my effort and energy to excel in this career because I'm just being held down based on my race or ethnicity or my gender or what have you, my sexual orientation or what have you. So you can choose to move on from a relationship or choose to move on from a job or something like this, and maintain your right view that any painful feelings you're experiencing is based in craving, desire, attachment. And you're just making a wise decision or practicing discernment to move on, because this is not a healthy environment and let me move on. But that's not going to solve my painful feelings. Just moving on, like I was sharing here, that you're not going to get to a stress-free life by moving to another job, because there's just other things in that new environment that you have cravings for, and you're going to get painful feelings. So you can move on from relationships or jobs or things like this without aversion. From the outside looking in, it's the same thing. A relationship is over and you're choosing to move on. But internally in your mind, it's either maintaining right view, which you can move on and maintain your right view, or having aversion where you have wrong view and you think that that's going to solve the problem, where that's not going to solve the problem. Does that make sense? Okay. Very good. All right. Any other? Yes, ma'am.
So I get a question about the process of meditation itself.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was doing the meditation, I was always find it's very hard to be it's very hard to be concentrated, because I always will think, you always have an objective when you start doing that, right? You have to train your minds to cultivate something. And I was always have your word has expectations for that, and I was always thinking, am I getting there, and am I being doing this right, and why can I be having the why can I have the effects or have the ideal outcomes after that. So itself, the process itself is very hard for me to concentrate it. So I want to know if there's some solutions to that.
Yeah, the solution is to keep training, because the mind lacking concentration is because of its craving anger in this ignorance or unknowing of true reality. As long as the pollution's in there, you won't have concentration. So you're going to experience a lack of concentration for multiple years before the mind actually gets to enlightenment. It took the Buddha 6 years to get to enlightenment. So it's going to take you some time to be able to get to enlightenment. And in the process, your mind is going to have bombardment of thoughts or lack of concentration. You're going to have anger. You're going to have frustration, and you're going to be annoyed in some situations. But if you're consistently training your mind, you should notice that those feelings gradually diminish, because as you're consistently training your mind in a dedicated and diligent way, the pollutions are gradually coming down. So also the strong feelings are gradually coming down as well. So when you're noticing that your mind is unconcentrated, this is normal for an unenlightened mind. So just like craving, desire, attachment, wants, and expectations is going to produce discontent feelings, and you need to eliminate these cravings, desires, these expectations and wants in all parts of your life, you need to even eliminate it towards your meditation. If you have the expectation that your meditation should be concentrated every single time, this is just a craving. This is the mind craving permanence, where in reality, your meditation practice is impermanent. In some cases, your meditations are going to be quite peaceful, and there's going to be quite a bit of joy in your mind. In other cases, you're going to have a bombardment of thoughts in your mind. This is just the impermanent nature of the world, and your meditation practice is going to be impermanent. But if you have the expectation that my meditation should always be concentrated, now you'll be frustrated when they're not concentrated, or you're not having concentration. So just understand that your meditation practice will go up and down all the way until your mind is enlightened. When you're enlightened, you're still going to have thoughts during your meditation, but the difference is you'll notice them right away, and you'll be able to easily cut them off and let them go. So all the way up, even the first, second, third stage of enlightenment, you're still going to have a certain lack of concentration here and there, even in your meditation. So when you're noticing that, just use that as motivation and encouragement and ambition that says, my mind's still not enlightened yet, so let me keep training, let me stay dedicated. This is where the confidence in the Buddha, the teachings, your community that you're part of, your teacher, and your own ability to get to enlightenment. You need to arise this confidence, where the mind in the unenlightened state will oftentimes have doubt. You will doubt the Buddha, you'll doubt his teachings, you'll doubt the community, you'll doubt your teacher, and you'll doubt your own ability to get to enlightenment. So getting rid of that doubt and arising confidence and just staying dedicated and diligent to the practice, you'll gradually see the reduction of pollution, the reduction of these strong feelings, and gradually the peace and the joy will arise. You're not going to get to the permanent peace, the permanent joy, the permanent concentration until the mind is actually enlightened. So it's going to be a while, and this is fun, right? It's like a home improvement project. If you've ever done like home improvement projects, like do-it-yourself projects at home, if you really enjoy those kinds of things, you've got this home, this mind that you can constantly work on and constantly improve. But in the meantime, it's going to go up and down for a while like this, for quite a while, and just eliminating expectation. Oftentimes at the end of a meditation, someone might judge it as this was a good meditation or a bad meditation. In my opinion, every meditation is beneficial. Every meditation is wonderful, because if you sit down in meditation and you're bombarded with thoughts and you're having a lack of concentration, that's insight. That's good wisdom for you, because now you just realize, wow, my mind's really busy today. So when I go to work and I see those children or I see the principal, I'm going to have to be really on guard, and I'm going to need to really pay a lot of attention to how I speak to people today, because my mind's really busy. So that's a really beneficial meditation. If you get out of meditation and you see your mind's really busy, and if you get out of meditation and you see your mind's quite calm and peaceful, wow, that was helpful too. You can see that it's quite helpful. So now today, maybe you'll make a lot of wise decisions, right? So if you get out of the habit of judging your meditation as being good or bad, or having expectations that it should be a certain way, and just realize that you need to be dedicated and diligent in your practice and just consistently do it, this is what will produce the results. So if you can string together multiple years of meditation, that's what's going to determine whether you get to enlightenment or not, right? You're going to need to have multiple years of meditation. Whereas if you miss a meditation here or there, okay, it's fine. If you're doing, say, 2 meditations a day, that's about 60 per month. Well, if you got 52 in or 53 in, that's okay. If you can do that consistently over the next several years, you'll get to enlightenment through learning the teachings and meditating. But if you put those expectations in there of expecting your meditation to be a certain way, you'll be frustrated when it's not that way, and you'll feel diminished, and maybe you might give up on your meditation, where that's just relegating yourself to being angry and frustrated for the rest of your life. So if you don't judge your expectation, or if you don't have expectations of your meditation and you don't judge it as good or bad, you just realize every meditation is beneficial no matter what the result was. Because at the end of the meditation, you're going to have more mindfulness, you're going to have more concentration, you're going to have less craving, desire, attachment, you're going to have less anger, less frustration, and this is all beneficial. But each day, day by day, you're not going to see the pollutions diminishing. The Buddha describes this like a digging tool, that if you had a digging tool with a wooden handle and you were digging every single day with this tool, you're wearing away the wood off of this handle every single day. You're not going to know how much wood you're wearing away off of this handle every single day, but you are wearing away the wood every single day. You're not going to know how much you're wearing away each day, but when it's completely exhausted and you need to replace this handle, you're going to know that. So each day as you're digging with this tool, you're not going to know how much wood you're wearing away. But when it's time to replace the handle, you're going to know that, because now it doesn't work so well anymore and it's time to replace it. So the same thing is true about your anger and all these other discontent feelings. You're not going to know how much pollution you're wearing away each day with your meditation. But when it's completely gone, you're going to know that. So like, for example, with my mom, when I could see it was 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, and I wasn't angry with mom anymore, I knew that my anger was gone. But each day when I was meditating, I didn't know how much anger I was eliminating. But when it was completely gone, I knew that. So it's the same thing as this digging tool. So each day when you're meditating, you just need to have confidence that you're wearing away these pollutions, and slowly but surely your mind's going to come to this more and more peaceful state. So you won't know each day how much pollution you're wearing away from the mind, but when it's completely gone, you'll know that, because it'll be 6 months, a year, 2 years. You haven't been angry, you haven't been frustrated, you haven't been agitated with anybody, and you'll know that your mind has been transformed.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yes, ma'am.
Well, thank you for your sharing. You just said that if you don't get at something else you want, don't put expectations on that others, and don't control others when others disagree with you. I find I can do that well if I'm with a stranger, but if this person is one of my family or my parents or my best friends, I find it's very difficult for me to do with that, because I don't know if I have much expectations on them. For example, once I climbed the mountains with one of my best friends, and when we arrived at a glacier, she wanted to see the beautiful thing, and at that time I was not feeling very well, and actually is at a very not safe condition, and she just left me at that time. So I was hurt, and I think even if it's a stranger, I will not left her at that time. So I just cannot accept that, and I think I'm I was pushing her away. After that, I don't know if I was doing right or wrong, and because I think maybe when time flies, I can forget that, and I will not feel hurt anymore, and will not feel the painful feelings. I'm just wonder what can I do in this kind of situation.
Sure. So the reason why you don't have the same issues when it's somebody you don't know is because your mind doesn't have attachment. You're not having craving, desire, attachment in those relationships with your parents, with your friends, people that are close to you. You're going to tend to have attachment. You're going to have craving, desire, attachment, where you're longing, yearning, expecting them to be a certain way. But with someone you don't know, you don't have an expectation of them. That's why your mind isn't discontent in those relationships or when you see those people. So in this situation, your mind was attached. You were craving, you were expecting your friend to do a certain thing. And when you didn't get that, that's where you felt the painful feelings or whatever it was, whether you're frustrated or agitated or annoyed or what have you. So in this situation, I don't suggest that you think about it as right or wrong. Did I do the right thing or the wrong thing? Instead, you need to look at what's wise or unwise and what's going to lead to wholesome results. Pushing your friend away doesn't solve your problem, right? So in that situation, your mind was craving your friend to be there with you, right? And now the mind was holding on. And when they walked away from you and left, that's where you felt alone or whatever you felt at that particular time, where what you need to be able to see is that what caused those feelings isn't your friend. Your friend didn't cause you to feel that way. What caused you to feel that way is your mind was holding on to your friend, wanting them to be a certain way, holding on to them, craving for them to be permanent. And then when they chose to leave, which was their choice to leave, your mind didn't like that because it was experiencing this impermanence. So I don't know where you guys are in your relationship now. I don't tell students what they should or shouldn't do. But if you would have talked to me, say, like right when that event happened, I wouldn't have suggested to you to end the relationship or move away from this person, because all they did was they chose to walk further, right? They walked away. It was your own mind that was holding on, wanting them to be a certain way. Because if you can only be with people that you agree with, like I mentioned, the number of people you can be with is going to become fewer and fewer and fewer, because there's nobody in this world that is going to do things your way except for you. You're the only one. So in this situation, you can just recognize that, okay, this person chose to leave. She chose to walk away. I would prefer she didn't do that. But you know what? Here I am all by myself. Let me just be peaceful and joyful. And now let me make my way back as well. But when there's craving, desire, attachment in your mind, you won't be able to do that. Your mind will be holding on and wanting this person to be permanent, and they're not. But the mind's expecting that to be, this person to be permanent or other things to be permanent. Mm-hmm. So this is aversion. This is aversion where the mind's pushing this friend away, thinking that that's going to solve the problem, but it won't solve your problem, because the next friend who does something opposite of the way you want, you'll have the same thing, and then you might push them away. So you'd like to get to the point where you don't push people away like that. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Leo, you have a question?
Yeah, I have some headache right now,
Mm-hmm.
and also a bit tension in the shoulder and neck area.
Mm-hmm.
I think you talked once about that this can happen when you in the practice, while practicing.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about that a bit?
Yeah, so the mind is the boss, the body's the employee. Whatever's going on in the mind, it's going to affect the body, right? So the employees are just following along with whatever the boss does, right? So if the mind is the boss and the body's the employee, so if there's some craving, desire, attachment in the mind, and the mind is stressed or feeling anxiety or what have you, you're going to experience those feelings in the body as well. So the more you clean up your mind, the less impactful you'll see. So when the mind's tranquil, the body will be tranquil, right? But with the mind having pollution, it's going to experience these discontent feelings, and you're going to have these aches and pains in the body. This is normal.
I think I have some, I forgot the word. If you a bit nervous or not nervous, excited,
Mm-hmm.
could this be the problem? Or I had it throughout the day today?
The problem is the discontentedness. So maybe what you're experiencing is anxiety. The cause of that is the craving, desire, attachment. That's the cause of the problem. The problem is the discontentedness. The cause of it is the craving, desire, attachment. So when you eliminate the craving, desire, attachment, that's what's going to eliminate the discontent feelings. That'll bring the tranquility to the mind. And then that's where the body will then be comfortable and relaxed. Because if the mind's tranquil, the body will be tranquil.
Okay, that could be the reason for the headache.
The headaches can happen for a number of reasons. It can be lack of water, lack of sleep. It can even be as you're training your mind, the physical structures of the brain can be physically changing, and that can be cause a bit of a headache. It can be certain cravings, desires, attachments, that is producing stress, headaches. So there's multiple reasons why a headache could be occurring. It could be physical, or it could be from the cravings in the mind.
But it must be coming from today, right? Can't be that yesterday I was maybe stressed or something, and now the results come the next day that I have headache. Is this possible, or is it normally that because of today I have these feelings? Maybe I have this. Yeah,
it can be from yesterday too. Yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be from today. It could be maybe you didn't drink enough water yesterday, or maybe you didn't get enough sleep, or maybe there was something impactful that happened yesterday and your mind's having craving, and now there's stress in the mind today. So it doesn't have to necessarily be from today. Your mind doesn't know what time it is, right? Your body doesn't either. Okay, so now that we've talked about craving and anger, now I'll share with you the whole reason why craving and anger exist in the mind. And it's because of this third poison. It's called ignorance, or some people refer to it as delusion or confusion or misunderstanding or misperception. That this is the unknowing of true reality. The mind doesn't understand the natural laws of existence. It just doesn't understand what it doesn't understand. And because of its lack of wisdom, it continues to crave and it continues to have anger. Again, because of our lack of wisdom, we will falsely attribute these painful feelings to something external, and we will think that somebody else is causing us to be angry. So even though we call it craving, anger, and ignorance, it's really because of ignorance that craving and anger continues in the mind. If it wasn't for this ignorance or unknowing of true reality, craving and anger would have been eliminated. But because the mind doesn't understand the three universal truths, the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, the 5 precepts, meditation training, the fetters, and all these other teachings that the Buddha taught, the natural law of karma, the cause and effect, because the mind doesn't understand these things and it has a lack of wisdom, it continues to crave and it continues to have anger. So this is actually the main cause of what's causing the mind to continue to stay stuck in the unenlightened state. If it wasn't for this lack of wisdom, the mind would be liberated and completely free of these strong feelings. So while we call it craving, anger, and ignorance, it's really because of ignorance that craving and anger continues to exist. The way that you eradicate this ignorance or this misunderstanding or this misperception or this confusion is through acquiring wisdom. Wisdom is how you antidote this. And this is why I start out a lot of my classes explaining to students to not believe anything that I share. Because belief, you don't know what's true or false. You don't have wisdom. When you're believing something, you don't have wisdom. The way that you get to wisdom is you learn, you investigate, you examine, you reflect, you independently verify, and then you practice. And as you're practicing the teachings, this is where you see the truth and you can acquire wisdom. It's the wisdom that's going to awaken your mind. This is why the Buddha didn't teach any rites, rituals, ceremonies, or worship. If you see those things attributed to Buddhist teachings, the Buddha didn't actually teach any rites, rituals, ceremonies, or worship. There's no amount of sprinkling water on you that I can do that's going to help you cultivate wisdom. There's no amount of strings that I can tie on your wrist that is going to help you cultivate wisdom. So even though you might go into various venues where they're doing these kinds of things, this isn't the actual teachings of the Buddha, because the Buddha is encouraging you to cultivate wisdom in your mind. Because with wisdom, you'll know these natural laws, and then you'll make wise decisions that produces wholesome results. Some of those wise decisions are, choosing to do meditation, choosing to come to the temple, choosing to learn and read and grow and develop. But you need to be able to learn these core central teachings of the three universal truths, the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, the 5 precepts, meditation training, the natural law of Gamma. All of these things are available to you in books, in classes, in courses, retreats, podcasts, videos. All the resources that I share with you are available at no cost. All these books that you see on the shelf over there, they're available at no cost by downloading them from our website. And then if you would like, you can even go print it. You can take that file and go print it for free. It's up to you to get it printed. There's plenty of print shops here in Thailand that'll print it for you. Or if you'd like to get printed versions here, you can just reimburse us for our printing costs, and then you can have a printed version. So, and you can even get it on Amazon if you have access to Amazon. It's on there as well. So if you start with volume 1 of the book series and you gradually learn through the various programs that we have, you can not only attend our classes, courses, and retreats here, but you can attend through live stream, you can attend through Zoom, you can even get personal guidance. If you'd like to get questions answered, you can ask in classes like this. You can post in our Facebook group and I'll answer it for you there. You can send me a private message if you like, or you can even schedule personal guidance. You can go to our website and you can schedule an appointment where we'll meet in Zoom one-on-one. Or if you're here in Chiang Mai, I can meet you here in Chiang Mai. Or as I travel around the world, if you're in the same city as me, we can meet there as well. And all of it is available to you at no cost, because I'm 100% confident that these teachings lead exactly where the Buddha said they do, that if you investigate them close enough, you'll be able to see the truth too. So that's why I don't charge any money or any prices for the things that I share, because I'm interested in seeing all beings be well. I have a genuine interest in seeing you be well and eliminating this anger and sadness and frustration. If I put a price on the classes and the courses and all the other things that I do, the people who are struggling the most with finances, they wouldn't be able to access these teachings. So instead, I make them available at no cost to everybody and anybody who's interested in learning and growing and developing. But you're the one that's doing the work. Yes, I'm working to share the teachings with you, but you need to be able to decide that you're interested in getting rid of the anger and the sadness and frustration and all these other discontent feelings. And then as your own independent practitioner, deciding that you're going to dedicate your time to learning and growing and developing. So you're not a follower or a devotee or anything like that. You're an independent practitioner who's learning and growing and developing on the path to enlightenment. I'm like a tour guide. I'm just pointing out to you the things that you need to learn and the things that you need to understand in order to grow and develop on the path to enlightenment. But you're always looking to cultivate wisdom. That's why you're never interested in believing anything about the teachings. And through investigating the teachings, through reflecting on them to verify them and practicing them, this is what will produce the wisdom in the mind, so that now more and more you can make wise decisions in your life that'll produce improved results. And one of those decisions is to eliminate these pollutions. As you're eliminating these pollutions, you'll see the mind becoming peaceful and joyful. You'll be able to have good quality sleep. You have all kinds of benefits that you'll see as your mind is starting to perform more optimally without these pollutions in the mind. So do you guys have any questions on this particular poison or any of the ones we talked about? Okay, so just to summarize what we've been discussing is the 3 poisons, the 3 unwholesome roots, or the 3 fires. This is craving, anger, and ignorance, or the unknowing of true reality. Some people refer to this as greed, hatred, and delusion, or desire, ill will, and confusion. These are the 3 high-level descriptions of what's keeping the mind in the unenlightened state. And as long as this pollution's in the mind, you're going to keep experiencing discontent feelings. Then there's these antidotes. That antidote or remedy or solve this. This is generosity, loving kindness, and wisdom. These are the 3 wholesome roots. This is what's transforming the mind and helping you to now make decisions based in wisdom, in generosity and loving kindness. This is ultimately what's going to eradicate these pollutions. There's a whole path called the Eightfold Path that you would need to learn and grow and develop, but this is what's targeting these particular poisons. But you wouldn't be able to get to enlightenment with just what I'm explaining to you here. There's other teachings that you would need, but this is helping you get deeper into understanding what's actually keeping the mind in the unenlightened state. So what I'm going to do is take a break here. It's a little bit after 11. So at 11:20, I'm going to start up with the 5 precepts, which are 5 impactful decisions that you could make, either wisely or unwisely. And it's either going going to produce wholesome or unwholesome results. So if you guys would like to take a 15-minute break and come back, I'm going to teach again starting at 11:20. I know some of you guys might have just been here for the morning session. You might have even already stayed longer than you were thinking. So if you're headed out, perhaps I'll see you guys in another class. But if you would like to come back, you can learn the 5 precepts. And this afternoon, I'll be teaching walking meditation. So enjoy your break or enjoy the rest of your day. Perhaps I'll see you guys in a future class. Be well and have a wonderful afternoon and a wonderful day. Sawadee krap.